Well, welcome back to another week's analysis behind the news, and I'm going to be departing from my normal current events sort of thing. I want to show you some things that I used to use in seminars that I would give on the media. Now, I haven't done this in a long time, so I have just the old examples that I gathered in their day, so to speak, to show how the media can manipulate people. First of all, I want to start off with Life magazine. This is an old issue. It shows Jimmy Stewart in his World War II uniform as a colonel and a pilot. He used to fly B-17s over Germany during World War II. But you see, back in this day, and it was, let's see, this issue is September 24th, 1945. And a major article in here called Pearl Harbor. And in here it says the facts were known to Republican presidential candidate Thomas Dewey in 1944. He withheld his fire, but now is the time to assess their meaning. And what they're talking about, and what this article is about, is the fact that Roosevelt and certain individuals in the hierarchy of the federal government knew about Pearl Harbor before it happened. Now, if you go to Life magazine or Time later on in their life, particularly Time now, it's still in existence, Pearl Harbor was a surprise. It was a sudden attack on the United States. Our government didn't know anything about it. Well, they used to know about it, these sorts of things. Even the Chicago Tribune during World War II mentioned the fact that Dewey knew about it, but had decided not to make it a campaign issue because, after all, we needed to fight World War II, etc. Well, it cost over 2,000 men and women as casualties in that attack by the Japanese, and our government knew about it. They used to say that in the magazines, now they don't. Here's another thing to show you how they can tell certain things and have an image that is entirely false. This is October 20, 1967, U.S. prisoners in North Vietnam. And it's an article about our prisoners being held in the Hanoi Hilton and that sort of thing, and how, generally speaking, you know, they're prisoners of war, and that's not a very good thing, but they can get communion, they get supplies, they get the fact that, well, they've got to go out and sweep the grounds, and so on and so forth, and they live in isolation. But nowhere in here does it talk about the tremendous torture and brutality of these prisoners of war. They allowed and I haven't investigated it, I probably should before I say this, but you had to have had a friendly photographer go in there and do this picture story for Life magazine. By friendly, I mean friendly to the other side, not ours. Here's another example of how photographs can be misleading. This is on the National Wildlife Federation in their 1971 Ecology Index. And you can see these poor kids, all they've got left to play on and have a picnic on are medians and banks alongside the major freeway, which is glutted with carbon-producing automobiles. And then you can see the haze of smog in the background from all of these factories. Well, this, ladies and gentlemen, is how it really looks. Half of those factories aren't there, and none of them are spouting this smog and smoke and everything else. So here you have propaganda, here you have reality. Another case, to show the kind of control that the media has, and again, this is old stuff, but it's a good example. Here in Wednesday, December 16th, 1987, the candidate, Gary Hart, gets back into the race. Now, see this photograph. It shows him here with in front of a rally. But then you get into this, that's the San Francisco Chronicle. This is the Fresno Bee. This shows him and his wife. This is the Los Angeles Herald, same photograph, him and his wife, same day. Los Angeles Times, same photograph, him and his wife. USA Today, same day, same photograph. it just shows the kind of control that you can have by having a national news service supplying all the newspapers the same articles, the same photographs. They can manipulate the thinking of the American people that way. You think that your local paper is independent. Well, it may be, although it may be part of a very large national chain. But they are all dependent on AP, Reuters, and that sort of thing. You recall the photographs of that old lady in those demonstrations in Red Square in Moscow. That they keep using the same lady year after year after year. Well, here is an example of the same day. The same photographs all over in the newspapers on the front page. Here is one from well, I'll show you this one first because it's much more detailed. Here is Life magazine, December 6th, 1968. And on the cover, it's about police brutality. In those years, they were trying to nationalize the police, and there was a national media campaign to make everybody hate the police, just as they do today. And in there, they show, in Chicago, these terrible police in Chicago, and they're beating up demonstrators at the National Democratic Convention. Well, a year later, in October 17th, 1969, here, ladies and gentlemen, is the same photograph, a little larger this time, but this is supposed to be Princeton. This is Chicago, this is Princeton. So you see, it's sort of like, well, you know, better have that police brutality photograph pulled out of the files and let's use it again. Well, you think that that isn't the case. Well, here's Time magazine, and this is December 6th, 1971. It's the same photograph again. And here in Playboy, it's the same, not the same photograph, but the same event. So you see, they will use these things to, you know, channel people's thinking, to get them to believe certain things by the repetitiveness of even the same photographs, the same people, all at the same time. It is a very interesting study. Now, you don't have the kinds of news magazines that we used to have in those days. You had U.S. News and World Report, Newsweek, Time, Life, all these things, and they used to be on the book and magazine counters in our grocery stores. So you could actually see these things happening. You'd be amazed at how often supposedly diametrically opposed news magazines would use the same photographs, the same headlines sometimes on their front cover. You could say, well, maybe they've got the same mindset. Well, maybe so. Maybe it isn't a conspiracy. But somebody is sure controlling the news media in this country. And that somebody is moving our country to the left. You can call it anything you want. We use the word conspiracy. Until next week, we'll see you then.